good evening, Cape Flats Stories. Mense van die Kaapse vlakte, also I say Cape Flats International. We're not only in, we used to be in the Cape Flats, now we went to Cape Town, and then we went to South Africa, and then we went to the rest of the world. So the platform is growing. Good evenings, welcome to Cape Flats Stories. Just want to talk before I introduce you to my young guest. He's very young. All my guests are young that comes into the studio. So this is the young, not the oldest of the young age home. So I just want to talk about the week it was. I don't know if you guys saw the story that I posted earlier on about the guy, the alleged gunman that was part of the shooting in Weinberg court. So there's a guy that has been caught or he's been linked, and so they're investigating the whole story. And I don't know if you guys are following the story of Jocelyn. I don't know what your thoughts on that. I will be talking more on the story. It looks to me, and this is my personal opinion, is my personal view, that the story, that this might be one of those cold cases. It just looks like it. And I don't want to say it, but it looks almost like we have to look deeper what's really happening. I always say this, and in my book you will see in Cape Flats Undercover, I spoke about the story before it happened. The people involved in the underworld. I'm not saying this is the case, but the people involved in the underworld, it's big people. It's not the guys with the tattoos and the gangsters. It's politicians. It's religious people. It's all those type of people, and we think it's not true. But the moment these things get uncovered, you will really see who's behind the evil world. But let's stop there for a moment. Let's go back to the studio. I've got a young man in the studio with me. His name is Conell. Conell is from Beaufort West, and I want to ask him about Beaufort West. But he's also been around. He's been working at Grootegeer, Lentegeer. He also recently launched a book. Yes, he's an author also. And we're going to talk about some very interesting topics tonight. I think one of the topics is the medical. I know many of you people wrote to me already about the medical state, the state where our health is in. The budget cut, that, people die in our hospitals, things has become worse. So that's the type of topics and conversation we're going to have tonight. Without any further ado, I have Conell in the studio. Welcome, Conell.
Oh, thank you for having me, Stanley.
Thank you so much for
So it's
joining
good
me.
to be here, man.
Before we go into the much more deeper conversation,
Mhm.
tell us more about yourself. Wie is die jong man? Van waar is hy?
Yep. My name's Conell. I was born in Port Elizabeth.
Mhm.
Lived there up to the age of, I guess, as far as I can remember, up to the age of 6. And then moved to Beaufort West to live with my great grandma, my grandma, my granddad, my auntie, and my uncle. And up until I think the age of 12, run about there, and then moved to Johannesburg, El Dorado Park, Eldos, so to say, extension 10,
Okay.
and then from there moved to Soweto, Middlelands, Zone 7, from where I used to travel from Soweto to Baragwana and then back to school. Didn't like it very much there, and then went back to Beaufort West, finished my schooling, came to Cape Town. Apparently it existed. It's a city, it's far out of Beaufort West, it's only for certain people to go there. But eventually I got here. So I got to know about Gatsby's and all that. And then finished my studies in 4 disciplines in nursing.
Okay.
And then I made my personal and private observations about our societal setup and order, which prompted me to make a decision to go somewhere else. I learned about it in geography. There's other countries
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So I thought I'll go test the waters and figure out it does exist.
So there is not only Cape Town. Like when we look at the map, we only see Joburg and Cape Town,
Yeah.
but it's much more broader. There is other countries as well.
Yep. I thought, Beaufort West. One of the things that I discovered as a kid, it's a bit of a disappointment about this Father Christmas thing. And when I wanted to talk to him, they told me he lives in the North Pole. I thought, there's Rasteen, there's Newlands. Where's the North Pole?
Yeah,
It's Beaufort West.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I know that there are other countries. No, that's true. For real. For real.
And growing up, obviously, it wasn't easy for you because I think that's one of the things that I also want to touch on. Many of us people think, we come from poverty. We didn't have it easy. It wasn't easy. But what motivated you? What motivated this young boy to go study, to not choose drugs and gangsterism, but to look for the other option?
Gosh, man, I feel that's a very loaded question. That is, and I really feel you. I get goosebumps just thinking about it, because where does one start with that? Yeah, my growing up, not easy at all, but at the same time, that's something I say now. I didn't know that as a kid then,
Yeah.
because back then as a kid, all I knew was I didn't like it. I couldn't articulate it. My whole being said something isn't right. I recall, for instance, my mom beat me quite a bit. She gave me a lot of hiding. I didn't know that there was certain things I needed to do.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I should be doing it either. I mean, where's the script for that?
Yeah.
And I even had this very real imagination and thought that maybe this is not my real mom. And I really fantasized about maybe someday I'll meet my real parents. That's real. And I've witnessed a lot of violence. And I've also not just witnessed, but experienced the lack of food.
Yeah.
But more profoundly was that sense of insecurity about things I couldn't articulate
Yeah.
and I had no control over as a child.
You mentioned something, and I think we all can relate. It's either your mother, your father. Sometimes we felt, but this person is not my parent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was there with my own father. Grew up, was my biological father, but it felt like the movies that we watched. There was a specific movie that I used to watch, Over the Top, where Sylvester Stallone meets his son for the first time. And you feel that for that few hours, the love between these two. And I think many of us, from, we were raised by parents, and we can't blame them also because they didn't also have that. But what motivated you, to to start going? Because I mean, one of the things is that when your own father, when your own mother don't show you the love, it's difficult
Yeah.
because you're not getting, like when you go to school, this young boy will be impressed with his father or with his mother. You will see his mother, his father as a role model. Here you come,
Yeah.
but you won't see that because you know what? You don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you going? Because you remember what? The one thing is this: we as people, we want that validation.
Yeah.
And if we don't get the validation from our parents, we're going to go look elsewhere.
That's
And
right.
that's what's happening in our communities.
That's right.
Young men, I mean, 80% of Delft, and that is statistic wise, 80% of the children there grow up without a father or mother, and the grandmothers are raising them. And that is also the percentage of other areas of the Cape Flats. How do we tell the young men they are special?
Yeah.
How do we tell them that, what? Maybe if you don't have the love now, but you will meet people along the road that will love you.
It's you really paint the picture accurately, Stanley. And I'm sorry to hear about your experience with your dad and the emotional longing that left you with. And you're also absolutely right about that blame is not the answer. Because also when people step into the space of blame, we also feel a sense of caution to blame someone, especially when you're vulnerable. You immediately think, oh, if I blame this person and what I say is true, I risk losing that emotional connection, and they might withdraw their love and care and concern for me. These are all truths. Now, these things that we experience as children, I put the proposition: is it our choice? Is it our parents' decision to deliberately take us through what I call a bit of hell, or are there other factors at play? on the first question, definitely not. Because what a wicked child are you to be born and say, I want to have the worst experience in life and I'm going after it. I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
I don't want water and I don't want anybody to care for me. You're just a baby.
Yeah.
You're going to cry and scream for that attention. You need that love. And to touch on a point that you say, well, how do you then tell that child when it grows up much later and he's a young man? And so how do you convey the message to them that they are loved and cared for? Words are not enough, bruv. Words are not enough. It's actions.
That's right.
Now, in those actions, and as much as you can do, as I say, we've got societal systems and setups that are considered to be as if though it is already loving, right? But it's misconstrued. Because we only need to look at the outcomes, or take the case of Ellen Puckey's.
Yes.
All right. So you're looking at, from the child's perspective, adverse childhood experiences. Adverse meaning it's something that is not good for you. It's a negative experience. If you take for example, you had a death in the family. You witnessed as a child, or you've witnessed domestic violence. Maybe someone abused alcohol or any other form of substance, and I think today, for instance, tick and crystal meth, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Or you experienced hunger, or you may have been sexually abused. And we tend to think, when we think sexual abuse, we tend to think females. And that's bad enough as it is.
Yes.
But happens to boys as well.
Exactly.
Right? And it's often in some people that you reasonably trusted. If you take, for example, boys who grew up in a Catholic church, being altar boys and all that. I know I was an altar boy as well, but in the Anglican church, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Father Peter was a nice guy. He was.
Yeah.
The only shocking thing that I realized from him was that was not really the blood of Jesus, because I saw him buying it from the bottle store.
Okay.
So, it's really wine. Bit of a light bulb moment there.
Yeah.
But these are the adverse childhood events that we experience, and they shape us. They impact on your brain.
Yeah.
So let's just look at one example. That if as a child, you didn't get fed, you didn't get the food, you didn't get the emotional nurturing, your brain develops, bruv. That brain develops at a slower pace.
Correct.
Because when a child cries, it needs emotional nurture. It needs to be picked up. It needs to be cuddled. And you can try it.
Yeah.
A baby cries there. You go pick it up. It's like magic.
Correct.
It goes quiet. You don't do that. Now, when they don't get that emotional nurturing, parts of the brain don't develop, Stan. And it's a form of conditioning.
Yeah.
Now, that child in later life learns, you know what? You've got an issue. You've got a need. There's no point in asking for help around here. So the child learns and experiences the world as hostile. It's not responsive.
Yes.
So you later again get on that people don't really trust each other. Now imagine you have two of those kids coming together, male and female, coming together. And typically what you would find is that the boys, they're very charming. There's a clue in there, very charming. They'll do anything to get the attention, and females, whatever other behaviors they exhibit. Now, they don't understand their already conditioning, and they come together, and children are born out of that. Can you imagine the toxicity? You see the existing toxicity.
Yes.
So that which we see in our society today, Stan, that's what I say, that the question you ask is loaded. It's loaded. And then to begin to understand the turmoil that we find our societies in, and then you want to look at external authorities such as a political setup to resolve that, you are barking up the absolutely wrong tree.
But that's the problem. You actually touching the point now. Now we want to outsource that responsibility to a politician.
The bugger is traumatized himself.
Because he comes from a background like that himself.
Yeah.
And our people, I've seen this on social media, and this is the one thing we will fight day and night. Vote for this party, vote for that party. Some people even know if the president or the person in charge of the party doesn't want to talk to them, they want to badmouth. You don't help us. But what they don't realize is that I need to help myself. You, Conell, you grew up and you didn't have it easy. Many of us in this room didn't have it easy, but we didn't make excuses. We didn't wait for handouts. But we have this culture amongst our people that is actually, and I think politicians are part of this. We're telling people it's okay. I will sort it out for you. You can't sort it out. It's something we need to sort out in our homes.
You're right. You're absolutely right. As I say, there's this generalized statement that charity starts at home. Now, what is charity? Charity is when you do something for another without expecting anything in return. It's so much better when we actually give the full worded definition of things. Then you understand. So it's these terminologies that we grow up with. Or we say the politician. There is no such thing as a politician, really. It's a person who has a set of ideas and beliefs that he has shared with other people, popularized, and gained support from them. So he then asserts to want to represent their needs, right? Now they say that's a politician. No, right at the beginning, it's a person. Now, all people, a person, natural person, has needs.
That's right.
Natural needs, physical needs, and emotional needs. And if that individual has one or the other deprivation in their life, they've been primed, they've been conditioned. And if they haven't got that nurturing within themselves, it's a point I make in the book that people who want to resolve societal issues, they either go in it full-heartedly or they give themselves over to an external authority, a system, and basically sell out. I'm going to look after myself. You lot, I figured out how this game works. All I need to tell you is I just make you a promise because I know what your vulnerabilities are. So Stanley, you want food, right? Food. You want a job? Yeah, I'm just going to promise you a job. You like feel that sense of security. But once I'm in there, bro, I'm there for 5 years. And once I'm there, I'm going to take as much as I can. Because I'm going to learn the tricks of the trade because that's the insecurities that they already have. So when you see that promises that are being made and they're not fulfilled, it's because it's irrational promises, okay? And the behavior exhibited by these individuals in public office, the behaviors they exhibit, it's not a reflection of the public or the public. People don't want to help. It's a reflection of what goes on inside of them.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's what it is, and that is a necessary understanding that when we look at people, right? Because they're not necessarily motivated by care for another. The societal outcomes we see does not lie. But we can tell you, South Africa, our economy is doing great. What is economy? Does that include the people on the street? No, you don't understand. Is the economy, the figures, they are looking great, and that is what we are reporting on.
What figures?
What about the kids on the Cape Flats?
Yeah.
No, you see, the tourism has gone up.
Yeah.
But just make sure they all stay there in the Menenberg and don't do whatever we are doing, sort them out, keep them out of sight.
Yeah.
And I talk about that subconscious element, that society is like a human brain where we have our conscious element and our subconscious element, which is suppressed. You know, I rare gedagtes wat jy het. Jy moet maar nou, ander way nou. Sy's net vriendelik, sy's net vriend. Hier. Sy op jou rare sê wat ek nou hier dink. You know, hy sê nee, dit gaan goed. Dit gaat goed, meneer. En bij de interview, no, it's fine, sir. Just got nervous. Just like, no, it's fine, sir. Just nervous. Geen net voor mij die job. I just want the job. Is nog genoeg. Because that's acting.
Yes.
Acting is exhausting. Being ourselves, go to an interview and say, actually, I've got ADHD because I didn't get the nurturing and I don't do very well with numbers. It doesn't make sense. The real reason why I'm here is I just want the job. I don't understand anything of it. I just want the money so I can be able to buy some bread and food and I get rims for my car. That's it. You know, that's it. I just want the money. But you're not going to say that truth there. And this is the fake circumstances we find ourselves, meaning that we are not authentic. So a lot of what we see represented in people who claim to be representing us, they're not really representing. They're representing of a system which is incompatible for the fulfilling of human needs. Even our constitution that we have in the country, you read the constitution, it suggests to you that it is there to fulfill the needs of human beings. It talks about two persons. It talks about persons, but there's a natural person and a juristic person. A juristic person is 'n organisasie wat jy opgeset het.
NPO.
En dan is die regte mens. Now, when we see the laws that are written and they're discharged, who do those laws really serve? The natural person or the juristic person? If it was the natural person, then explain to me the lad at the traffic lights, bruv. Explain to me the mense wat daar onder die brug slaap. Explain that one to me. Where's the law? Where's the love? We'll come to that subject.
You are touching a very valuable topic. One of the things, and I know you're very liberal about this, is land expropriation.
Yeah.
The one thing
How do you know that?
I've spied on you today. So the one thing is that many of us sitting in the room will be able to tell you. Some of us come from Boekamp. Some of us come from District 6. Some of us come from, like our mothers, comes from Constantia, Southfield, wherever, the elite areas. But we were forcefully removed to the place of hate, like the Cape Flats. And so now many of us can't live here. That's why some of us are living under the bridge. Let's just use an example. I had a family member that lived under the bridge. He was wanted by the gangsters. He was mistakenly identified as someone that was at the wrong place. He lived there for 20 years, and he died 2 years ago. And that is one of the cases. Now you have some of our young girls, they can't live on the Cape Flats because of the violence, they live in Wynberg, on the streets, selling themselves. The problem that I have is that what government is doing, and this is something that I always talk about, but people don't see it, they are not developing the Cape Flats. We're not getting more schools. We're not getting more recreational facilities. All they're doing is building houses, throwing people on top of one another. It's like dumping. Instead of making things equal, making the playing grounds equal for all of us, let us also move, some of us move back. If not me, my mother, my aunt, let them move back to where they come from. Let's make the playing grounds equal. So land expropriation, when people are fighting against it, but what they don't understand is we were the first victims of land expropriation without compensation. And today we are struggling. You mentioned something about money. We don't have money. We don't even get the proper job. They didn't even pay us properly. If you compare a colored person's salary with everybody else's salary in this country, you will be surprised what we get. And then they tell us nicely, moet vir niemand sê wat jy verdien nie, want dit is 'n geheim. Dit is nie 'n geheim nie. You don't want me to know what my colleague is paying.
I don't think it's a secret when you could see how much people can afford. I think it's very obvious, isn't it?
But then again,
not much.
People can't afford, but then again, Conell, then they would tell you, look here, ons kry swaar. But nou kry jy, maar ek ry 'n ou Corolla, jy ry die nuwe BMW, jy bly in Platte Kloof. Hoe kry ons swaar? Ik ben altijd op die Cape Flats, but you make comparisons. And then eventually you start giving up and you fall into the system. I'm just going to go work
Yeah.
just to provide for my family. Because I'm not done fighting,
Yeah.
Nobody's listening to me.
It's dreadful, isn't
How do we address that?
it? Yeah. Again, it's all part of that loaded matters. And Stan, everything you said is valid. And I think what is probably adding to the infuriation is that those very points you raise is invalidated by statements which doesn't come close to address it, right? So expropriation, you're absolutely right that expropriation happened a long time ago.
Yes.
What is expropriation? Expropriation is like annexing something, taking something from someone by force. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So when did expropriation in South Africa first occur? It was way back then when people from a foreign land, such as Great Britain, not so great, America, USA, United States of America, not so united,
Yes.
and it's now the United Kingdom as well, not so united either.
Yeah.
They came here and they took the land, but what they did, they installed a legal system by which they then wrote laws, and they wrote an expropriation act. An act is a legal instrument that is now applicable to people in the land, basically taking the land from the people they labeled as natives. So like jy woord
Maak jou seer.
maak jou seer as baie dingetjies daar. And I think many people, it hurts so much that the only thing that they can express themselves with is we see what happens. People pull weapons and because they can't talk.
Yeah.
So they wrote that piece of law and basically made it law to take land and that assign the best of parts of the country to people of white ethnicity. They called, they also wrote, I think it's a 1950 piece of legislation where they classified people in South Africa on the basis of the color of their skin and say there's white people, black people, colored people, and then there was Indians. The thing about whenever I come to colored people and they refer to me as colored, I say, that's not true. I think the colored people is more the first part of the classification. Because when they're born, they're pink. When they get cold, they go blue. Now they go purple. When they die, they go blue. And if they lack oxygen, they go white. You try that with a person of black ethnicity or a colored. Lady bra. Okay, no colors. But that's what they did. So the land was by legal instrument that they've written, taken away. And then when you talk about what you mentioned about how people had lived nearer the mountain, is that the boer Kaap that you, because ek is van Beaufort West, ek ken mos nie die goeie nie.
Beaufort West district.
So they were then forcibly moved, by legal instrument. So it's expropriating land from them. Now, there's also another thing called appropriation. When you appropriate something, it's a way that you're taking something from someone without their consent. Now, if you take it without their consent with the intention to permanently deprive them of, it's called theft. But if you call it expropriation,
sounds nice.
that sounds nicer. So it's no longer theft because it's lawful now. Now, just because something is law, Stan, doesn't make it right.
Correct.
And because slavery was law once too.
Yes.
And so the discontent that we later feel and that people feel, and I see on your cup, great cup by the way.
Thank you.
And it says Cape Flat Stories, that people had now sort of started living and defining their living space as Cape Flats. And there is another heavy point in there as well. The way you design a living space impacts on people's conscience, their human interaction, the quality of behaviors that exhibited from that. It's like you say, you stack them on top of each other, look at the behaviors that comes. Sy sit vir hulle lekker urban area, lekker spasie, lang strate, gras wat daar loop, the behavior changes. Even when you walk down there, you feel a sense of, I think I need to adjust a little bit here. That's how it is. So these things do impact. They are not by accident. They're designed. And you would have heard people say the word, the system is broken. No, it's not broken. It's designed to work like that. You're broken. It breaks you.
There we go.
That's what it does. And until you understand that concept, you will begin to understand that the things we participate in is not natural. And anyone who wants to make you believe, as die Here se wil, niks met die Here te doen nie. Because as die Here so die goed te doen, I tell you, I would have more than just the appeltjie te skil met die Here.
Ek wil die hemel toe gaan hê.
Nee, that's what I say.
I don't want to go to heaven.
The heaven they talk about. I mean, think about it.
And
think about it. If heaven is such a fantastic place, what the hell are they doing here? The ones talking about it's not palatable what is talked about here. That is the element of religion in itself, which is a subject matter that you're not supposed to talk about. But the expropriation and things that we see here, that piece of legislation is now written. So I say to people that, I think I spoke to Jeremiah last night, that said about, if you think about the Constitution as written, you think, why did they put the Section 25 in there? Section 25 talks about restoration of land that belong to others. And listen to the word, restoration, the land to those who were disadvantaged. If you're restoring something, it means it needs to go back in its proper place. Restoring it. There's a clue in there. So why was it in there? So there's a clear acknowledgement. Whoever has it now, you're not the original owner, bro. Okay, so now how we're going to take it? We know to appropriate it as a bietjie verkeerd. Dis mos nou diefstal. Okay, maar as dit expropriate, nou was nou wettig. But now you had a group of people, and I say this, you had a group of people actually go on and complain abroad and say, hulle wil ons land terug vir, hulle wil ons grond vat. No, it's not true. They just made a legal instrument. So it's quite lawful. I thought we were all living by the law, bro, like we did before. It's just that those laws are, those other laws that sort of wasn't too nice towards people. We scrapped those. You were okay with that, unless you want them to come back. But now we've put in a piece of instrument for the sake of equality and equity. Equity as well. And equity in property. Property is not limited to land only. That is Section 25, subsection 4 of the Constitution, and it's clear. Now we have this piece of legislation. I think it's Act number 13 of 2024. And then they went to say, SWAT means there was a land fight. It's not true, because the actual legislation, Expropriation Act, it says only the minister can affect that, and only the minister for the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Nou moet jy kyk, wie is hy minister? As Dean William McPherson. He happens to be a person of white ethnicity. So an organization going to say, it is what means, no, they can't do it. It's the minister for Public Works and Infrastructure. If he says, vat hy land, as mos hy wat? I say. So he makes that rule. But communication, is a powerful tool, Stanley. And it's partly what has kept our people in the undesirable state. That's partly, but it's the most powerful thing. In warfare, the first thing you go after is communication towers.
Thank you.
That's the first thing you go. So if you can keep the people misdirected with certain forms of information, Sewe Stanley. As I, is jy sien hy ouens aan nie? I remember.
Yeah.
Hulle is jou problem.
Yeah.
Hulle is jou
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Hulle wil jou spotte. Nou,
Yeah.
jy's nou met hulle.
Mm.
En dan sê, nee, ons is American, ons is die.
Yeah.
You think, I don't understand.
Yeah.
No, that's comms.
Yeah.
Whilst they're actually living at
Okay.
large.
Thank you.
So, and that's why in the book, I redefine under the chapter racism, what racism really is. This thing that they tell us,
Yeah.
by definition,
Yeah.
the Oxford dictionary, what racism is baffling because it's not true, bruv.
Yeah.
You need to look at the root of things.
Where did it start?
Exactly. And that's when you begin to understand. So to understand the problems that we've got in our society and the Cape Flats, go to the roots. And that's what, so next time, before you start being critical about the boy who's running around with a weapon, right? And you know the weapons. I'm just trying to be conscientious of any other children perhaps listening, as to understand where that comes from. What is that? Why would you arm yourself? It's a form, it's an expression that I need to defend myself. So why do you need to defend yourself? It means you feel unsafe. Why do you feel unsafe? Where does that come from? Oh, well, my mom and dad, they can't. So why can't they look after you? So what are they exposed to, like you said? What were our parents exposed to? What is the system that brought us here? Do you know of other people? Do you know of anybody who does not have those worries?
No.
Well, in the Cape Flats, you don't.
No.
But there are parts in the country where they don't. They live in massively fenced areas. They moet by die deur, jy moet maar knoppies aan bel hulle die mense. Ja, jy kan maar hulle inkom, klik, klik, klik. Hulle so ID, driver's license. You think, sure. It's like, I need, it feels like you're coming into heaven and they ask you for the password.
Yeah.
Sy bitter dit wie. They don't feel safe here.
Yeah.
So it's understanding those backdrops, Stanley, and I get it why we're now calling it Cape Flats. Wat het van Cape Town geword?
Cape Flats. Two different places in two different cities in one city. Cape Flats and Cape Town.
How do you feel about that? Which one are you in?
I'm in the Cape Flats.
Oh, so you just visit Cape Town now?
I just now and then when they say event happening. You know what? Talking about that, if you look at the events happening, if you look at anything, businesses, anything, nothing is growing on the Cape Flats. Everything is growing on this side of the world. That to me is an indication that the Cape Flats is not on the soil. It's not for it to grow because it has been built on hatred. I said the other day to someone, if we should take everybody from Menenberg now and put them from where they are originally, let's say District 6, and we put them in Bishop Lavis, and we put them in Constantia, and we put all those people in Menenberg, two things are going to happen. Because like you said earlier, the system broke us. The system, they built the system that broke each and every colored person on the Cape Flats. Some of us, yes, we rose about our circumstances, but some of us didn't. So what will happen if Menenberg goes there? You're still going to get the young man standing on the corner asking for the tour. Because over the years, it has been imprinted in his head.
Conditioning.
You know what? You're going to stand on the corner. You're still going to have us killing us over land. Because you know what? The imprint that they left was for us to kill one another. We have a much bigger problem. We can go home, but we won't get along. Because the conditioning for the last 50 plus years. I mean, Mitchell's Plain will be 50 years old this year.
Really?
It has been in the 70s, so it has been established in the 70s. If you think about it, Mitchell's Plain is one of the biggest areas on the Cape Flats. It's where the majority of voters live. Yet, it's a prison without security guards, without gates.
When you put it like that.
The problem that we have is, how do we tell these people what's in? We have become our own enemy. The system has conditioned us to hate each other. I mean, gangsterism, yes, big, but now look at politics. We are fighting one another now. We become politicians, but we're still fighting one another. In the corporate world, you are the manager and I am working for you. I'm going to fight you. We have the spirit of fighting each other. We have been conditioned to hate each other.
Yeah.
How do we tell these people out there, hey, we're the enemy, your brothers and sisters.
Well, the word you mentioned there, Stanley, gangsterism. We tend to think, when we think of gangsterism, we tend to think of, okay, the Owens Animenberg, the Cape Flats and the Mitchell Flats. Well, there is an obvious gang, very obvious.
Yeah.
That's just they're wearing suits, man.
True.
That's it. So that is gangsterism. Because what is a gang? A gang is a group of people who agree on one or the other thing. They have consensus about something. Gangsterism is that environment in which 2 or 3 different groups are hostile towards one another. But why are they hostile to each other? Is for they're trying to secure one or the other item that they consider to be valuable, whether it is territory or resources.
Yes.
So imagine, waar jy al gesien die een gang vra vir die ander gang, kan jy vir ons help met die goede wat ons trust klaar nie vir julle nie. Now, you're going to ask the gangsters in suits that live in the plush houses and you've provided for them seating and what you call parliament. That's a gang.
Yes, many of them.
Now you're asking them to help you. They'll be like, ek gaan vir jou op TV antwoord.
Yeah.
All right? But we're going to promise you all these things. They say all these things, but you've got to wait.
Yes.
All right? Human beings don't do very well with not having their needs met. They don't do very well having to wait very long either. Okay? So, politics is one distinct feature. It divides. Nou, jy wil nou hê politics moet mense verenig. Is aan klaar 'n ding wat mense uitmekaar maak. Because, so, right there is a clue. You're barking up the wrong tree. Whatever they may call it, united this, or there's no a GNU ding, you must know.
GNU, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I can think of a lot of other acronyms. General National, what? Government of National Unity. How's that going? All right. So from the outset, it's in your face. The gangsterism that we experience here is another expression of people's insecurity. They're not to blame. As you said, it's a system that is imported. We didn't design the system.
No.
I refer to, we are in a situation where we are managing systems we didn't design.
Yes.
We are trying our best to climb up and to get to the top of the ladder. Well, let's be clear about what that ladder is actually made up of. That ladder is, jy moet op iemand anders klim man, om maar bo te kom.
Yes.
And if you look, it's the construction site of the misery that other people live in. That is that ladder. That is it. So, if you want to eat caviar or king clip, iemand moet die vis gaan vang.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I says, hey, gaan een beetje dieper aan, joh. Gaan een beetje dieper aan. He comes back and hy het amper sy lewe verloor. Nou moet jy vir hom sê, nee, hy sê vir 60 rand. Nee, hy gaan vir jou 40 rand gee. He said, do you realize what he's just gone through?
Almost the rest of his
He
life.
said, no, I'll give you 30 rand. Hy wil nie 30 rand en fari.
Yeah. Okay.
10 rand.
Yeah.
So right. So this is, and you go and you take that fish, so that person just struggled, take it for 10 rand, and you go to some fancy named restaurant that only certain people can come with money, and you chop that up into bits and pieces, and you get 165 rand out of that. You see what I'm saying? So this is what's climbing up the ladder to the top of what they call success. That is a misconstruing. The idea that success is wealth, money wealth, and the achievement of it. This is fundamentally also where our problem lies in society. It misconstrues. What real success is, in human terms, is the ability to care for my brother or my sister as jy my broer, moet ek na jou kyk, ja of nee? Am I your keeper? Of course I am.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, when you don't have that element of human connection, you have been desensitized. Now, what desensitizes us today? So, as you rightly say, people are conditioned. And that's what makes the world hostile. The children learn that the world is hostile.
Yeah.
I spoke at the university the other day, and I said to them, right, this establishment, I don't know how old it is, yeah? You teach a lot of subjects, and it's graduation week again. Loads of people graduating.
Yeah.
Do you guys do economics here? Yep. So you get economic graduates here as well. Yep. How is it then that you never figured out how to solve poverty then? So then you've got to ask yourself, okay, I said, leave that question there. Maybe there's something wrong with what you're teaching them. I think it's training, Stan. It's training, conditioning people to fulfill a particular role in this system. If you start coming and saying there, putting the answer, I don't think we should charge for that. I think we should just be kind to people. You're not going to get a certificate, bruv.
Yeah.
But if you come up with these evil genius things and you figure out how to charge people more for something, it doesn't work. Fertility, again, as you were speaking earlier on, you see, what grows up in certain areas, you want to plant certain seeds, they'll grow. The soil needs to be fertile. You go Cape Town, as you say, certain areas, and then you have, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say like it's so disrespectful, and then we're here. I say, why do we have such a low produce or very low productivity or what they call success in economic terms in the Cape Flats? It's a bit like when you poison a stretch of land, you can plant a genetically modified seed in there. It will grow and it looks good on you, and you eat from it, but the seeds that it produces, you can't plant it again.
Yes.
And that's why you try that, it's not going to work. So the same system has sown seeds here, and those seeds, that's why you see here and there sporadically, oh, so-and-so, the doctor bekom. And so, but can they make it in the Cape Flats? No, they got to get out of the Cape Flats. And this is what bugs me, that you see, I'm having to live in the UK just to have what I consider to be a reasonable life. But based on what standards? Based on what standards really? So what is here then? What is here that I cannot come back to and live? It is the system that is designed, and our continued participation as a community. I say we need to re-examine what it is that we are participating in. We need to re-examine what it is that we are agreeing to. And people don't even agree to it anymore. They're hoping for someone to help them. But people are not out there to help you. I touch on a chapter that I actually show people that this isn't a foreign concept. I will bring you right down to the Municipal Systems Act, Act 32 of 2000, South Africa. There are provisions in that piece of legislation right now that once you'll open your eyes to that, you can see charity and kindness can be lawfully applied right now.
If they want to.
No, it's not even want to. The law is clear that Section 153 of the Constitution, that they need to abide by that. So by not seeing or providing for people's needs as a priority is a breach of the law. So dit ding wat mense stry, ons gaan in die council, No. Once we familiarize ourselves with the social agreement, that's what the law is. It's a social agreement. And if you're not happy with what they're doing now, even in that same piece of legislation, Stan, would you believe it, there's power to review whatever they have lawfully, and they can't move without you. En hy sê, "Wat? Ja, maar Conell, waar gaan jy geld kry vir die reviews dat is?" As in jy weet, dit sê hulle moet geld vir jou gee om 'n review te doen. It really is. You say, okay, we know her. She's an accountant. We're going to need some money for that. We need a space. We need computers and all. All of this is in there. So it is informing and informing people to have the civil conversation. But why does that not occur? It's because we are a very traumatized people. And we need to start with patience. We need to start with compassion. Yes. It can be done. It starts with myself. I've got to figure, why am I so ongeduldig? Yes. I know because I'm traumatized. So when we talk to our existing social institutions, like the police, service, no, there are people there who are, you see that they're supposed to enforce the law, but they break the law in the course of enforcing a law, and much of those laws that they claim to enforce does not even exist. Hoe kan jy 'n man so vat en mense sulke goed te doen? You spoke about the child that is missing, the Jocelyn case. Yes. That, to me, I'll tell you what I see is a whole story of trauma. And that's the story of all of our lives. We are all responsible. One child gone missing, one mother having to, whatever her decisions were, to go and do what she did or did not do. As all of us is responsible. Why do I say all of us? Because people don't like blame. People don't do very well with blame. No, it's not about blame. Let's identify the facts. Yes. And the fact is that we are complicit in a system that we run with. We don't pause to say, hold on a minute, what am I doing here? What are we doing here? Why are we misfiring? We are deeply dysfunctional, not because we chose to or because your parents. The environment is a bit sick. Yes. That's the environment we're living in. You think you're gonna, I'm gonna jump into the sea, and jy gaan nie nat raak, jy gaan pap nat raak. Yes. And it's high time, Stan, that we be rational about what there is. Calm the down, and let's talk. Why are we in the state that we are? Ding is, mense is gewoon dit te doen, jy sien nie die klompie vingers wat terugkyk. And allow other people to speak, even when they blame. You can understand why they blame. We lack the ability to take responsibility. We don't respond anymore, Stan. We react. Yes.
Conell, there's so a lot. We are 5 minutes left into the program. There's so I wanted to touch on the NHI. I wanted to touch on it. There's a lot, but we're not going to get it. But let's continue that conversation. Let's end with the conversation. One of the things that was taken out of our communities was the ability to think for ourselves. What do they call it? What does it mean? You go in these courses. What is?
Yep.
So you go on courses to sort of to help you to decide what is wrong and right.
Okay.
IQ. That's not IQ. What is it? Madrasa.
What does madrasa mean?
Madrasa is a business school, no?
Yeah.
What is madrasa? What does that mean? To sort of put it, madrasa, because all I see now is madrasa.
IQ, yes.
IQ testing.
So not IQ, but
EQ.
you go EQ, EQ. You go for emotional intelligence. Sorry, there's the word.
Oh, there you are.
Emotional intelligence. You go for these type of courses, right? And after many years, you realize, but this is missing in my community. I can't, like you mentioned now, I don't have patience because I haven't learned how to be patient. My father wasn't patient. Remember, this system comes from my great-grandfather's time. So they took away the ability to think for ourselves, to make decisions for ourselves. And that's one of the issues that we have. That's why we're sitting with people, like you said, they're pointing finger. What are we doing? In Cape Town, the people of color are the majority. Yet, we're the most unemployed, we're the most marginalized. But ons verstaan nie, ons het die power nie. How do we tell our people? Yeah, but as ons saam staan, ons is patience. En ons kry ons EQ reg. Kan ons
Of course you can.
die ding vat?
Of course you can. You see, knowledge isn't power. They keep telling us is knowledge is power. Well, what knowledge do we have? We have the knowledge that ons swaar kry. We have the knowledge that ons gerop word. We have the knowledge that alles is verkeerd.
Yeah.
So where's the power? You see, those are two different concepts. It's the application of that knowledge. That's the power. And you need to identify what's good and what's wrong. You can't go wrong. You can't miss about what goes wrong at the moment because there's so much. You can throw with your eyes closed and you'll hit something because there's a lot wrong. And with that, with emotional intelligence, intel, inside telling. And it's that conversation in a safe space that is not hostile. That when you see a brother misfiring, you understand where that comes from. They need to feel safe. Okay, nothing is going to change right now. The idea that we, as die son gaan sak, dan moet jy nog gaan slaap, allemaal gaan slaap. Now you can sit up and have discussions. You don't have to. Okay? A lot of planning, like we're sitting here right now, we're discussing concepts. Words have meaning, words paint pictures in our heads. I've mentioned to you about a piece of legislation that is there, and I'm happy to come back and even discuss in a group and show people where it is in the law and what it really means. And we can extend an invitation to the persons in political office to come and to tell us whether what we point out in the law is true. The point is, it's true, it's written there. And yes, it's written in English en Sephardi. Ek het nou Engels geleer, ek verstaan nou.
Ek ken dit al.
Ja, ek kan nou. We can translate it as well. It's there. And also people need not feel intimidated that they don't quite know. We take it bit by bit. You know, mense, se behoeftes. Wat is julle behoeftes? Ons is honger, ons die kraggie, ons die lig in die jale, vat die lig. Oh, come back. Wat is die behoefte? So het is honger, die kossie. Okay, so it's mense se behoefte. Wat sê ons 'n social agreement? Prioritize the needs of the people. Okay. So the needs of the people, not the needs of an economy. There's a difference. You see, so when we have these discussions, Stan, in a safe space, we could start with 10 or 20 ouens and a dinge, right? And we have the same discussions over and over until it sinks in. Now we can calmly go to your nearest counselor, the ward counselor. But what do people say? Is that sense of defeat. Say, never. All right, we'll show you exactly how to do it by way of the social agreement.
Thank you.
And this is something that I've done with my daughter in Beaufort West, right? How to address her local municipality. And she took the courage. It's not easy.
Yeah, I know.
Because you still have to overcome the internal authorities within yourself and like the fear. Now, say write to them because Section 5 of the same piece of legislation, they have a legal duty and obligation to reply to you. So when they don't, it means they break the law. And when you break the law, every piece of law has penalties and offenses. So then they replied. And as a result, we pointed out something that's missing in the municipality. They never had provisions for the Promotion of Access to Information Act, which is a piece of law that was written in 2000. En 2022 vir hulle uit hulle kan nie die inquiry antwoord nie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as a result of that inquiry,
Yeah.
so they had an emergency meeting and they quickly had to set all of that up.
Yeah.
And Nishi said, "Oh my gosh, what did I just do?" I said, "Do you realize what you've just done?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Shaken up a whole system. But the people would have gone with all of this and hulle doen hulle werk and hulle dink julle weet mos nie and hulle doen and things are not resolved. You have a right to ask, say, "Excuse me, we just want to know, how is it? There's a councillor and this must any council, right? A councillor is a member of the council. Anything the councillor does, say, or does not say, or does not do, in terms of the people's need, is misfiring, and there's a code of conduct. So we're going to teach the people as well in terms of the code of conduct, how you can get them disciplined. And I mean, so you can get there. It has happened in Cape Town. So by the way, so these things can be done, Stan, lawfully.
Also, just to end off, it happened here in the studio one year. I will share with you later on. I think it's also how we approach. They have the right to know your letter. And that is why you're not getting a response, because you're not approaching them right. And I think that's the other thing is, we didn't even get there, is the education. Keeping our people uninformed. Keeping them dumb. Not you have still the old apartheid structures. Apartheid is gone, but the structures are still there. You still have 2 high schools in an area where you need 7 high schools. You have more primary schools because it was built for us to finish grade 7. You go to grade 7 and then we have to go work. That system is still there. And that's why we don't know how to write a letter.
Happy to, we need to help people with this. These things need to be done, and you also have to ask yourself, how did that come about? Whose decision was it? Was the community asked? Basically, there's a misapplication of the social agreement. That's why the outcomes we see, meaning people aren't asked.
So when are you coming back? Because we don't need
I'm here now. I'm joking.
But you're going home tomorrow, right?
I'm flying out tomorrow, but Stan, you and I we've got Zoom or whatever or via WhatsApp. That conversation we can continue. And having spoken to Jeremiah, I said, I'm going to have to come back a lot sooner. And Stan, I'm honest when I say, and I'm genuine when I say, I'm happy to come and go into very difficult spaces and talk to people about it. And yes, people will be fired up, but once we can calm down, I tell you, you will be able to think a lot clearer. Now, I do understand why people are angry because of their real feelings and thoughts being suppressed. So the innerste oomblik, yeah, man, and that does not really advance anything. You need a moment of that, but then you need to come down. Now we need to talk. Yes, you have freedom of expression. Jy kan my jou massa en allerlei goede. You can mos enigiets anders vloek, maar as jy regtig iemand wil sien raak vloek, dan gaan sy. And they know. Now that is, it tells you how deeply upset people are. But we'll show and ask people, what would you like your council to do? If you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. And that, Stan, if someone like yourself, who's a prominent individual in your community, you speak up about the concerns in the Cape Flats. I've watched your content, and that's why I started following your page. These things can then be brought. I'll help you. I have some very good friends who would offer up their time for which they would normally get paid, but their hearts are in the right place. And we'll get your letters properly drafted based on what the people had said, and make sure that you get lawful responses. I've seen a lot of lawyers claim for the antwoord. Now I just think, who comes the lawyers for the antwoord? Jesus the counselor. But that tells you everything you need to know. Once they start lawyering up, they're no longer on your side. You are now in opposition. And it's perhaps the very setup as to why we find that there. But when we move into that space, it's like I space because no honey law was no praat. And that's when you see They now have to do things by the law, and when they don't,
Yeah.
unfortunately, some of them may need,
Other jobs.
free bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
24-hour security. That's other words for jail. You
Yeah.
get 24-hour security there.
That's the thing, and I think that's where we need to move to. We need to know our right. We need to know what we can do.
Yes.
And we have, like I said earlier on, we have outsourced too many of our responsibilities
Yeah.
to people that don't want to help us. They're just there for 5 years. 5 years, you get a paycheck of 120,000 rand a month.
Really? That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Many, yeah, and remember they also get like a constituency
120,000
rand a month.
Sorry,
That's like almost 1.4 million rand a year. That is what they get for member of parliament. I think almost a ward councillor gets about 50 to 60,000 rand. Remember, the ward councillor also gets every year a 1 million rand amount that they can use in the community in this
For
area
what?
to projects and stuff. And then also remember the political parties, and people don't know this, they get a salary, but also they get an amount. Let's say I win a few seats, 4 or 5 seats, and I am in Grassy Park, Parkwood, or those areas, then I get a constituency fee as well. So people don't know these
Now, who
things.
designed all of that, and why do you need all of that? All of these things are reviewable.
It is reviewable. Like I said last week, when they voted for the VAT increase, why didn't they just say, okay, let's cut out the deputy, the deputy ministers? Then we didn't need a VAT increase. Because then we'd have a couple of million rands in our pockets. So it's things like that. But otherwise, we're going to talk the whole night.
I know it goes deep. It really goes deep.
You
I
are
would have
going to
just
come
said
back.
to you, there shouldn't even have to be a discussion about that, because it's the whole thing is undemocratic. That's where you start.
Yes.
Because but you are left to do you want 2% or 0.5? No, none of that matters in the first place.
No. We're going to chat, and we're going to come back with solutions, like taking this further, putting it into action.
My man.
Because
I
the
am
thing is
talking.
this, you'll probably come back before the end of the year. Remember, next year, 2026, is the elections.
Probably in a month or two, Stan, because I'm setting up some systems for the book and want to make it locally available.
Nice.
Dit in Afrikaans ook, and
Ja.
in 'n audio boek vir mense wat jy kan lees het, dat hulle hoor.
Maak wissel.
En maak ons klein groepies in gesels.
Ja. Thank you so much.
Heel nag praat jy. Hulle moet vir ons sê like
Time out.
die
Conell, any last words did you want to end up with? And then we say goodbye to the viewers.
let's be more kinder to each other. Okay? That's where we start. We live in a society that is hostile enough, and it's hostile towards us, and it has taught us to be hostile towards each other. We know what we are craving for. We know what we are wired for. We are wired for love and connection. Because we crave that, I strongly suggest and I make the case that we be the difference that we want to see in the world. It may sound easier said than done, but it starts with compassion to ourselves and our neighbor. Acts of kindness doesn't cost anything. We can do this. If you're kind to someone, your own health and well-being will improve. The person that you're kind to, their health and well-being will improve too. And as a third effect, people who become aware of that kindness and live in that environment, they experience the very same. Research actually shows that, but we don't need research to compel us to do that. It's a basic human drive and need. Show some more love, care and compassion. Thank you.
Conell, thank you so much. You will be back, you said, in a month or two. So we're going to meet up with him. We want to take the conversation a bit further. We're not going to do it tonight, because otherwise we're going to get out of here probably tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. So thank you so much for being here, giving us that information. Where can they follow you?
At the moment, that page is Wake Up. I'll send you the link, Stan.
Okay.
But I've asked my publishers to change the title of my page to Love's Revolution. And that's where we're going to do a lot of revolutionizing things. I will send you the link, Stan, and then you can share that.
Yeah.
Please do.
I will share it. You guys can meet him. He's going to be here again. I'm booking him now already. And we can meet up. We can take this thing further and teach our people their rights. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Ons gaan na huis toe, ons gaan nou slaap. And tomorrow we're going to go work. And remember, Monday is a holiday. So don't go work next week on Monday. Guys, you have a lovely evening. See you guys next week. Cheers.
People's attention
I just wanna
span.
take a picture
Yes.
quickly.
Oh, okay. Should we
Yeah,
like
yeah,
hit
thank you.
that?